In this video, we're going to be looking at texturing a steel hatchet. So firstly, we've already baked this and we have vertex painted it in Blender, as you can see here. If you're unsure on how to do either of those things, I'll leave some links in the description to my other video. But let's start off with the handle. So if we go to wood, beached, veined, I quite like this smart material. Let's just control drag it just onto the handle. And that's a good starting point for the handle. Now if we go and do the metal part, let's go to metal stained. And again, we'll control drag this onto the metal part of the hatchet. Now I'm quite happy with that colour. You might want to tweak it ever so slightly. And if you do, you can come down here. I'm going to make it ever so slightly lighter. Like so. Now with these being smart materials, a lot of the work is done for us already, but there's a few tweaks I'd like to make. So in this case, I'd like a bit of edge wear, make it look a bit well worn. So if we go to some smart masks here, and let's just search for edge, and let's try out a few of these. So let's start with this one. You see that's got blade quite nicely and it's a bit more rough and ready around the edges here. So I quite like this one, so I'm actually going to stick with this one. We'll just tweak it slightly. We'll change it all the way up to metallic, like so. And we'll just turn down the height ever so slightly. You can see that has more of an effect. That might be a bit too much, so maybe we turn it down to 0.03, or again maybe down to 0.02. You can see that's very sort of subtle around the edges. Now I'd like some scratches on top of this as well, so let's try some subtle scratches here. We'll see what that does. If you're unsure or the colours blend a bit, you want to change this to red so you can see it a bit better, just temporarily. So I quite like that. So again, let's turn it to metallic and let's just see what it will look like with the height turned down. Now I'm a big fan of that, so we'll leave that as is. Now some other things we might want to do is let's add some dirt on top of this. So if we go with let's try some dirt splashes here. I might try another one, just see if there's anything a bit better. Let's go with dirt spots here, see what that looks like. So I prefer this one a bit more, I think, but let's just turn them both to brown, like so. What I might do is I might end up using both here, but with this one I might turn the opacity down, like so. Let's just name this Dirt 1, Dirt 2, Scratches, and we'll call this one Edge Wear. I'll just call it edge. Now the last thing I'm going to do to this is I'm going to add some dust. So we're going to do dust here. Let's add some soft dust, see what that looks like. Not a fan of that one, so let's remove that. Try some surface dust. Again, not a massive fan of that one either. See what this one looks like. Let's just change the colour so I can see it a bit better. Yeah, I like the look of that. let's go with a very light brown here, so it looks like dirty dust. And then we'll just change the mask down so it's ever so slightly on, and it's more subtle. Now I'm quite happy with that, so what we'll do here is we'll just name that dust. And we'll get all of these and we'll just pop it in a folder. Now we'll call this folder metal. That's just going to make it a bit more tidy, a bit more workable. So next, let's move back to the handle. Now I'm quite happy with this. I'm not going to have to do too much here. Again, let's look at some edges. Let's see what we can do. So let's control drag that on again. You can see here there's a bit at the top. I quite like that. A bit on the sides. So that could be a possibility. But let's just try a few others. Just see if we can't find anything a bit better. So I quite like that as well, but I think we might use that for something else. Almost looks a bit more like dirt, I think. Let's try one of these. And we'll get rid of that one. I'm not a fan of that one at all. Again, that one doesn't really do a great deal. Potentially we could change the height on it, but I think we've already got a few cracks in here, so we don't really need anything like that. Let's just try one more. Try this fabric edge one, see what this looks like. So again, you can't really notice much of a difference on that one, so we'll get rid of that. And let's have a play around with this. So firstly, if we change the colour, maybe we do a bit of an eye drop here, just to get it similar. Maybe want it a bit lighter. Let's change the height first. So if we exaggerate that, you can see exactly what it does. Tone it down a bit. Just slightly, just add a bit more texture to it. Again, it doesn't need a great deal doing with the wood already being a smart material. I think if we turn that down a bit, it almost looks like it's been... Here's a better space to have a look. Looks like it's been beat up a bit more. Maybe something a bit more subtle. Like so, I think we should turn the roughness up a bit. What we could do is we could go a bit lighter. This might be a bit easier. If we do it this way, then we go over to the mask. We turn this down. Yeah, I much prefer that. So it looks like the top's worn a bit. Again, just makes it look a bit older and a bit more used. So we just call this edge. Now if we put this back on, that almost looks quite dusty to me. Maybe we'll see what this does quick. And again, that might actually be better over the other edge one. Maybe we go with both here. So I'm going to stick with the original for now, like so. So let's get rid of this one entirely. And now what we'll do is, again, we'll just add some more dirt. Quite like the dirt splashes here. So let's control drag that on. So that looks quite good to me. Let's change this a bit darker. And what we'll do again is we'll just turn down the opacity a bit, just so it blends in a bit better, like so. Now one more thing we might want to do just underneath this one is add some occlusion. You can see it's almost a bit of dirt or grime or dust or whatever, just in the cracks a bit more. So if we just change this down to a really deep dark brown, let's change the roughness up. What we'll do is, again, we'll just tweak the opacity on this slightly. So you can see there's almost a bit of shadow or dust in the cracks there. Now the last thing I'm going to do, so I'll just name this before we do so, dirt, is let's add some more dust. So let's try dust soft on this one, see what this looks like. Let's just turn this to red so we can see exactly. Yep, I'm happy with that. So let's turn it down a bit. And then again, we'll just tweak the opacity channel a little bit, so it's ever so subtle. Now what we'll do is we will create another folder, and we'll call this handle, and we'll just drag all of these into there along with this, just so it's a bit tidier. And there you go, there we have our steel hatchet. Be sure to leave a comment below what you'd like to see next, and I will see you in the next one.